This thing that I have found is what I would call my gracious space. Howdy folks, Jack Carlisle here, and we are with Gracious Spaces. And where are we? I say it every time. We are high atop this beautiful community called Old Town Orange. Very much a pleasure to be here, and by being a part of the community, I have the wonderful pleasure of inviting people into my studio and talking with them. And this morning we have the beautiful and ambitious, and I don't know how many words this lady could be described, tenacious, I don't know, going and on, but Martha Nix Wade this morning. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You threw me off this morning, though, because I had this whole thing in my head, how I was going to start this, and I'm going to dive into this. And no, you came in, you're like, look at this pen I have. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, she's like, you know what that is. You're a horticulturalist. And I'm looking, I'm like, what is that? I have no idea. And it's this beautiful pen with a mustard seed in it.
Yes.
And what that tipped me off is, and I'm sure it's your intention too by wearing, is to plant the seed.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to our conversation today, because that's very much what we are here to do and will do today. So thank you for being here. You're going to have a really great story to tell us, and I hope we all come on the other side better for it. So I'm going to start with your book. And it's a long title, so I'm gonna read it all.
You had to give a little backstory.
Right? But well worth reading this long title. It's My Secret Life, a truthful look at a child actor's victory over sexual abuse. And so my mind immediately kind of went toward, gosh, sexual abuse, and boy, this is going to be a tough one, right? But then I just focused in on that word victory. And I love that you put that in there, because that you're a victor, right?
Absolutely.
And so give us a little bit about that, and how you chose that title, and a little bit of your journey into writing this book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the book, I go through being innocent. I was a child. I was completely innocent. Now, my world was different than the average child. At 4 years old, I did my first commercial, but I had that wonder of walking into a studio and just being wide-eyed and excited to work. But that first commercial was actually pretty funny. So I went on an audition. It was the second audition I went on, and I got a call back. So when you're a child actor, you go out on your first audition, and then they pare it down to a smaller group. But typically there's another paring down. So they had chosen me out of a bunch of kids to be the smaller bracket, and they brought in the director. And so I had just started kindergarten, because I'm a September baby, so I was 4 when I started.
Oh, wait, when's your birthday?
September 26th.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Are you a September baby?
March.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you have my half birthday.
Yes, there you go. I like that.
So I was in there, and I was covered in what my mom thought was an allergic reaction to the candy bar from the first audition. Oh. But what it looked like was chicken pox. So I'm in the audition. For whatever reason, I'm on the director's lap, and I go, want to see my chicken pox? And I lift my dress up to show him, completely innocent. And the casting director freaked out. She runs to my mom, how dare you bring this child in and expose all these kids to chicken pox? My mom's like, hold on. I don't think it's chicken pox. I think she's allergic to chocolate. Well, the director found it incredibly hysterical, hired 2 extra guys. One guy's job was to hold the paper box for me to spit out the chocolate bar. The other grown man wiped out my mouth. So I gave 2 grown men employment for the day.
So this was a commercial for chocolate.
Yes. The candy bar doesn't exist anymore. Okay, it's Chocolate. You can actually Google it, and it's still there.
Well, I was going to tell people, don't try this at home if you're taking your child out to
just
auditions.
So you know, it was probably the sand fleas at kindergarten in the sandbox.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but anyways,
I
got the job, but I was completely innocent. And so the first part of my book talks about just being an innocent child, unassuming. And then
Because you were on some heavy hitters, Days of Our Lives, I think. Yeah.
And the Waltons, yes.
Waltons.
But at the same time I was on Days and the Waltons was when my abuse was taking place, where I became a victim. And so I write about that, about the challenges of being a victim of sexual assault. And then when it became public, when I was 25, that's when I was in, and before that I was even in survival mode. You know, I was masking over the reality of what happened, still performing, still, you know, being the top of my class in much I was doing.
So were you in survival mode alone? Had you told anybody?
Absolutely. I had not told anyone until right before it became public. I was dating a guy, and for whatever reason, I told him. Now, the first guy I remember telling absolutely was who became my husband. I think I told the guy I was dating before, but I don't have a concrete memory of that because he was really tight with my perpetrator.
Oh my gosh. And from my understanding, these were friends of the family.
They were. They spent all holidays with us. And they didn't have family. We were their family.
And here you had these people you trust and you know that have come into your world, your circle, and a predator takes advantage of those moments.
100%.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. The average perpetrator is very wise and cunning. They are watching family dynamics. They're watching a child and how they are. Are they innocent? Has their parent equipped them with the knowledge about no one should touch or photograph your private parts? Or are they just trusting, pleasing children that want to make others happy, and they're obedient? They really take advantage of what typically are good characteristics. And that's who he was. He was looking at different family systems and seeing where he could step in where there was something missing. In my case, what was missing is my dad was so concerned about people perceiving innocent physical touch, like a father who's kind and good-natured and wants to give appropriate affection to their child.
Gentle hugs
and my dad was just so afraid when school started that he did not want anything to be misconstrued. So he just stopped giving me appropriate physical touch. My perpetrator saw this and stepped in. Initially, it was tickling. You know, did I have boundaries? Did I say stop, or did I allow him to do that? And I was just so conditioned to obey my elders, don't question what they do, that I just was the perfect target. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would imagine that's fairly common.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, a perpetrator is quoted saying, "It's great if you don't teach your kids about sexual matters, then I get to."
Yeah. Yeah. So what age, this is just a personal thing, in your experience, what age would you say would be appropriate to talk to your children about a situation that may be uncomfortable or not kosher?
So when I train parents on how to breach this subject area with their kids, I actually say, as you're diapering them, you say, right now, mommy or daddy is taking care of your private parts, but these are your parts to care for. Using the appropriate terminology, excuse me if you have an issue, but it's a penis and a vagina. Yeah. That's what they are.
It is what it is.
If you say couscous, powder puff, pencil, those just make it cute. And just so like a police officer comes and says, well, what happened? Well, Johnny touched my pencil. Well, you should share your pencil. What's the issue? If Johnny touched his penis,
big difference.
The police officer knows.
Yeah.
And if the police officer doesn't investigate what a pencil is,
he knows how to act appropriately.
So if it's a penis and a vagina, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And so I teach parents from the get-go.
Yeah.
You talk to them about it. Now, you don't want to make it ongoing and blah, 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 where we become Charlie Brown's parents, wah, 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 wah. But we do want to teach about it and just make it normal conversation. If a child says, so-and-so tried to touch my penis, we as parents need to say, thank you for telling me. I really appreciate that.
It's an open conversation.
It's not, oh my gosh, why did he do that?
They shouldn't be ashamed.
No. And when we freak out as parents, that child's going to automatically, I don't want to hurt my parent. I don't want them to cry. I don't want them. And if
or get anyone in trouble.
Yeah.
I would think is a part of that too.
And when we're, such as myself, I just wanted to please people. So if you tell me, we need to name my perpetrator some help. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
I'm now helping others. Because that was the whole thing, is I was helping him with whatever it was. That was my mindset as a child.
Yeah.
And I had not been trained at all on what was occurring. I didn't have the language to tell you what was occurring. But if we just talk very matter-of-factly with our kids, and that's the point of our book, I Am a Super Kid. It's their super if they protect their private parts. It empowers them. And that's the whole thing. We want kids to be empowered and educated. And there are some books that, show nakedness, and kids, when I first started writing I Am a Super Kid, I bought some books and I showed my kids, and my kids were like, oh my gosh, he doesn't have a shirt on. And I'm like, okay, keep them clothed.
There is that point though where a kid it's a little, what's the word I want to say? It's sort of, it is funny's not the right word, but they're a little embarrassed, like a guy with his shirt off.
To a kid, they make it funny.
Yeah. So, growing up as a child actor, did you feel like opportunities were there among that profession? Because you were aware of it, perhaps with this family friend. Do you feel like that was something was a challenge among your profession as well?
So in my profession, that's not where the initial abuse took place. That was my safe haven. It's when I came home. Now there are a lot of things within the industry that are very sexualized. You watch different even game shows with celebrities, and it's a very sexualized industry. And so you are, I'm going to say, deadened to some facts. You work if you can banter with the best of them. And so there is a part of you as a child actor that is exposed to things that are sexual, and it normalizes it. But my abuse did not take place in the industry until I was 17 years old.
So you found that as a safe haven. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like the word victory. I mean, you were lucky that you could find or have a place to go and be and feel safe and comfortable.
Absolutely. It was a place to belong and to do well in the industry, I was hired because I could follow directions and do it well. As a victim of sexual assault, I could perform well. And it was a double-edged sword. But in the industry, it was just amazing to be able to go on set, have purpose, do well, get accolades, because that's what I was hungry for. And so it was the place to belong and have purpose.
Do you recall that turning point when something's got to change here?
I had different turning points. So when I was 17, I was working on a show, and our executive producer was quite handsy. And that inner child in me was like, just endure it, just endure it, just endure it. And one day I hit done. And I'm like, no, I'm taking my power back. And fortunately or unfortunately, he was showing around network executives that day, and he touched my butt, and I said, take your hands off my rear end. There's my teacher. Because on every set there is a hired studio teacher that's there to teach you in the classroom, but when you're not in the classroom, he or she is to watch over that everything is above the law. So I thought, I've taken my power back. As soon as I turned 18, I got a letter. I got called in to the office with producers, and I was fired. And after the fact, handful of years later, I was on set as an adult with who was then my teacher, and he didn't apologize. He just it was, and he recalled the incident. And I think he just didn't know how to handle it. Whether that was being shame, it just, or like, maybe what did I really do wrong? All I did was, it was. One of my friends said, "Oh, it was before your time." There was a major incident in our history with the Superior Court Judge, Clarence Thomas. And really before that, we didn't talk about sexual banter in the workplace. It was just, if you will, swept under the rug. Yeah. So she said, oh, if it happened after, you would have had somewhere. And we tried to go through the legal patterns and saying I was unjustly let go. Yeah. And they looked at my contract, SAG did, and they said,
18.
We missed things in this contract and you have no grounds.
Oh.
And it was a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
And then I was on an audition, and the executive producer, I'd made it through the cuts there, said to me, now we see that you worked on this show. What happened?
Oh.
And in my head, I thought, it pays to be honest. And I said, well, it looks like I was let go because I told the executive producer to take his hands off me. And within a week, I was mailed a letter from an attorney that cease and desist. And basically, I was blacklisted from then on.
You know, times have changed. And, you know, you feel like, gosh, why couldn't you had a different outcome at that time? But progression has now allowed that to be more open. And so, my first reaction is, oh my gosh, I'm so sad. But we've come a long way, wouldn't you say?
To a certain extent.
It's probably still not as great as it could be.
It's so hard because so many people want to be in the acting industry so badly, or any industry. I mean, fill in the blank, the music industry, and some people don't understand their value, and that working in a certain industry is not worth compromising your convictions
yourself
or who you are, and it still happens.
I would say you have immense strength to do that, to stand up for yourself, knowing you're not going to work anymore. There's something to learn about that, because you've actually done quite a bit. You did not work. You amped it up.
Well, books. I mean, there was so right after I got fired, so I had bought a condo in LA. In order to stay on that show, I relinquished going to UCLA. I had gotten accepted. I was let go the day after I would have started at UCLA.
Oh, man.
And that was a real challenging time for me.
Sure.
I had a condo I couldn't pay for. I wasn't going to go to the school I longed to go to. And I had done a missions trip in Colombia, and the missionaries whom we had built a house for and that were kidnapped. And so it was just like my world felt like it was crumbling. And I remember driving, there's a street called Hillgard, which is one side of UCLA. And I'm like, if I go straight, all this pain will be over. And I audibly heard, I gave you life. What right do you have to take it away? And I was like, huh?
What? Yeah.
Okay, God. And that was, if you will, that scared straight moment where you asked, when did you have that turnaround? That was one of them.
One of them. Yeah.
And that was really a life-changing moment, literally life, where I started to, because my value had felt like it was all stripped away when I was let go from that show. And then that moment was like, I was given a life. What was my purpose? And so it was a rebuilding moment where I did regroup and start anew and figure out what was my new purpose. Because from the age of 4 on, I believe my purpose was to work in quote unquote Hollywood.
The acting world.
I wanted to write and direct and produce my own shows. And that was my and it was like, what now? And so it was a rebuilding. I ended up going back to UCLA 2 years later. At that moment, I thought I was going to go to New York and dance. And then it was like, no, not everyone wants to be in some type of the industry, whether it be dance, music. And then it's like, okay, but not everybody wants to go to Brazil and work with street kids. It's a whole nother story. I didn't go to Brazil and work with street kids long term.
Yeah.
I met this guy, and
There's always a guy.
There's a guy.
I was waiting for that.
But I had the blessing of being married to him for 30 years until he passed away. And I reshaped my vision. I taught for 5 years. And then when I felt that door was closing, I worked at a church for 10 years. When that door, I mean, it's like all these doors closed, and it's like, okay, so what now? To ultimately, I have a nonprofit called A Quarter Blue, and we work with victims of crime. We are specialists in sexual assault, out of my own story. But we do work with all victims of crime and their family to help them through their healing journey, much like I was given that opportunity when my abuse became public at the age of 25.
How'd that feel to get it out and be open with it?
There were points of liberation.
Yeah.
It wasn't being honest about what had happened to me and what had happened to what we know at least 35 other girls was
from this same
man. Yes.
Wow.
So we had points of liberation during, one, getting my own individual help. The church put a lien on his home that paid for our therapy. So my perpetrator paid for my healing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So he didn't know what hit him, huh?
No, the church was amazing in how they dealt with it legally and ethically. And
so is it fair to say someone that may be listening in a similar situation can go to their church? I mean, obviously, yes, you can go and have them help you, but is that why that was it for your first avenue?
Because it was a large church and they really were ahead of what should be happening. And unfortunately, many churches don't know how to handle finding a perpetrator in their midst. And part of it is wrapped within the faith of forgiveness. We're, as Christians, you're commanded really to forgive.
Sure.
But what many people don't understand is forgiveness is not excusing the person. A lot of people couple forgiveness with reconciliation.
There's still accountability.
And just because you've forgiven someone doesn't mean you need to reconcile with them.
Yeah.
And my illustration is, historically the Bible talks about Judas betrayed Jesus. Jesus didn't run to Judas, forgive him, restore his relationship with him. Judas went and actually took his own life, but it's like there was forgiveness, but Jesus didn't reconcile with Judas, and that's a model. And I don't believe that just because you've forgiven someone, it's releasing them and saying, for you and me, we're done. It's not saying, and I had that opportunity, which is another remarkable part of the church, for those of us who wanted to have active face-to-face forgiveness. The church provided that opportunity where there was a representative that sat with him and his wife. There's me, my husband, my parents, my therapist. Well, she's an accomplice.
Oh, wow. A good sticker.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And, I said, I forgive you. And he said, oh, you forgive me. You forgive me. I said, hold on.
Let's talk about what this forgiveness means.
I said, God was in the room when you did that to me. And you can come clean about what you did to me here and now, or you can come clean when you're face to face with your maker. Mm-hmm. But as for you and me, we're done. Yeah. And he never admitted what he did to me. So I believe my justice was the day he died at 97. Yeah. I didn't receive that earthly justice, one, through the judicial system. Two, he did not come clean with me, nor did she.
Were you, the forgiveness that you gave on your terms, was that healing it all for
100%.
You as well? Yeah, of course.
100%.
Yeah.
It was a cut.
Yeah.
He no longer, even when there was that sense of him trespassing, and this is the reality, in my bedroom, with my husband, I said, no, you have no part in my room, get out of here. And he wasn't standing there, but it was this sense of. And so there was a clean cut.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah.
And
for you to move on.
and there's a reminder of that but no, I said we're done back on that day, and we're done.
Has faith always been in your life, even as you were younger?
I
in
grew
your
up in the
teens?
church.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. There was, I would say, in any journey, there's points of newfound understanding. And if you're active, like I worked for a person one time, and he says, "I'm blah, blah, blah years old. I'm done growing." And I thought to myself, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really want to work for you.
We all
Because we never should be done growing.
Never. Yeah. When I love that piece about Quarter Blue, your foundation, education is a huge part of what you do for prevention.
Oh, I'd love to work ourselves out of a trauma recovery job.
Yeah.
Would love to shut those doors because we've prevented crime. I don't want to shut the doors.
Yeah.
But if we could stop this ongoing cycle of man hurting man,
yeah,
I'd
headed
love
off of
to.
the path.
But I was just talking to a police officer yesterday in a city that's normally very minimal crime.
Yeah.
And he said, there's so much violent crime going on right now. We've just never had this level of violent crime.
Well, I would imagine, too, abuse is one that sort of flies under the radar. You know, it's a hard one to detect. I was lucky enough to participate a little bit in a workshop you gave here at the Potting Shed. And what I loved about it, I'll have you go through the little station. They weren't little, the stations that you had set up, but they were all about empowerment and positivity. So how you give many workshops, and they're all cleverly done, and there's always a purpose. Walk us through a few of those activities that you that someone here listening might could do at home, either with themselves or their children or their aunt, their uncle or whatnot.
100%. So when we were here, it was for Victims' Rights Week.
Yes.
And because I don't have a problem with the term victim. I was a victim of sexual abuse. It is part of my story, but I don't want to stay there. I don't want to stay stuck in this victim mentality.
Yeah.
I don't even want to stay stuck in that survivor mode. I want to do so much more. And whether you call me a victor or one who thrives, I want people to all experience being a victor, being a thriver, because of the hardship that we went through. As we work through that, we become a force to be reckoned with.
And this can translate to any stressful situation in your life or challenges you have, not just abuse, but
absolutely. You could have a tough relationship with your spouse. You could be a child at school and being bullied, or have a teacher that just doesn't understand you. Yeah. There's a lot that we can do in our own lives to really transform things. And my biggest encouragement is get your head, your thoughts ahead of you so that your heart and head can catch up. So first is like choosing hope was one of the activities. And we had people grab onto pieces of papers and art, and they could put them in this box of what they wanted to let go of and say, I don't want to stay stuck in that place, whether it be negative thoughts, or maybe they needed to sever a relationship that wasn't healthy, but they were placing it in this box, releasing it, saying, I'm done with this.
It's gone.
And we don't want them to give it to us where we're going to carry their stuff, but we're setting it in a box. We're done. And in the activity we did here, we set it in this box, and at the end of the night, we locked it up.
Yeah.
And we said, this is locked up. I'm not carrying it. You're not carrying it. Yeah. It's locked up. It's under lock and key. And honestly, I can't tell you even where the key is to unlock it.
Who cares?
Honestly.
It's done.
Because it's not meant for us to carry.
Yeah.
There are many ways you can lock something, release it. Yeah. It could be, honestly, what our original thought was having doves released into the sky to say, let's just let it go and let it transform into something beautiful.
Yeah.
And doves are beautiful. Yeah. Creation is beautiful.
Yeah.
And you can burn it in a pit. You can flush it down a toilet. You can do many things with that release.
Yeah.
So releasing things, not holding on to them, or just constantly, start your morning with gratitude. Thank you that I'm alive.
Yeah.
Thank you that I can step on my own 2 feet. Thank you that I can see.
Yeah.
Thank you that I have a roof over my own head. Thank you that I can pull covers up over my body. There are a lot of things not everybody can do that we honestly take for granted.
Yeah.
And starting our day in a point of gratitude, or having a gratitude jar where you're filling things with gratitude, or a journal, filling it with points of gratitude.
Not only starting, but ending the day
100%.
with what you're thankful for, have gratitude for. One of those projects in the workshop was a shield. I love that one because it just expressed so much. You're shielding. You can shield yourself from this challenge that's coming your way.
Absolutely.
And,
we had a shield where people could etch in it.
Yes.
Where they could etch words of empowerment or images of empowerment, because that protective shield has so many symbolic elements.
So many.
That we should be protected. We should be protected from evil thoughts, evil intentions, and whether it be, and there's that putting on that shield of armor, that these arrows of hatred or evil intents of people,
negativity.
Even mad dogging and that. It's like you just wipe off a shield. You don't let it penetrate your heart.
Yeah.
And so often we let people's words and actions penetrate our hearts. And that's very
relief.
It's just when we let people's negativity penetrate us, we let their evil or their pain affect us.
Feeds into
and
us.
we need to have that shield of protection so we don't take on the pain of others.
And that could even be as simple as something a passerby or a neighbor can put that negative energy into us so quickly. We need to always carry that shield, right? And be aware of it.
Yes, I tell people, you have a welcome mat at your door.
Yeah.
And wipe your feet before you go in your house. Don't carry it in your house with you. When you leave your job, if you're working at a tough place, even for our therapist at a Quarter Blue, wipe your feet when you leave here so you don't carry the trauma that you've heard all day that is real with our clients. The trauma that they hear is real.
That's so important,
Wipe
Martha.
your feet.
Yeah, your staff, those that are listening to these stories, gosh, how they don't want to take that home with them. And I know I'm very emotional. I have to let things settle in my heart very easily, and that's good. That's good for me to remember too, that I should leave those things and not take them with me.
Some of us, I'm one of them, having been a former dancer, and it sounds like you're similar, as I carry things physically.
Yeah.
So one of my best friends is a massage or acupuncture or movement, because it's easy for me to feel deeply, and if I get a massage, I'm releasing it, I'm letting it go, and then I have a clean palate.
Yes.
And so knowing yourself is very important. I didn't realize my daughter needs to move to process, and that she doesn't talk well about tough stuff if we're just sitting and staring.
Sitting in it,
If we go for a walk, or when she's driving, she'll just spill. If I'm driving her, she's not going to spill. But paying attention to ourselves, but our kids or others in our lives, is when do they start talking freely, and then creating those opportunities when we know that they've had a tough day. Is just most parents, how was your day today? Whatever, it was okay. Kids aren't going to, share it then when you're playing Uno, working with clay, or cleaning the house. And most kids are going to spill their guts when it's time to go to bed. And we're like, it's bedtime. Go to sleep. But we should take that opportunity. Whenever they start spilling, just set all those. Let them spill.
Well, knowing you a little bit, your kids' friends are your family too.
They are.
Yeah. And they walk with you daily as well. So that helps maybe a kid who may not have that at home. So that's very comforting. I like that.
It was really interesting. So, as you know, but your listeners may not, my son was killed in a motorcycle accident 3 years ago. And when he was probably junior high age, he was like, Mom, my friends don't need you. Bailey's friends needed you. They didn't have parents. My friends have parents. So, Mom, just give my friends space. Uh-huh. And I think that was about 8th grade. And then mid-9th grade, he's like, Mom, I need to apologize. My friends like you, and they say they need you. And after he'd passed away, I was talking to one of his friends about this. She goes, well, that's what most people don't understand. We may look like we don't need you, but that's when you really need to take notice. Even though our family looks put together, it might not be. And Mama, a lot of them call me Mama Wade. She goes, Mama Wade, we need you. Oh. And I'm just that parent who's not a parent of them.
Yeah. Well, you're a safe place for them. They can talk to you and feel like it's kept in confidentiality, open up to you, respect you, listen to you. That's beautiful.
It's pretty. They're remarkable people, and I tell them that hopefully enough that they're like, but you are too. And I'm like, you don't understand. They're now basically between 20 and 26. And it's not normal for 20 and 26-year-olds to come over to a now 57-year-old's house at least once a week and have dinner. Yeah. And we talk, we play ping pong, That's awesome. Hacky sack's the new one, whatever it is. But we hang out. We're like you said, we're family. That's cool. But it speaks very remarkably about these young people and their commitment to me, because they've been there for me in the first 3 years where Ryder was gone, and with my husband recently passing away, they're still there.
So it's a lot about their self-awareness and where they want to be as people,
They're truly remarkable individuals. And now that they're like dating people and they're coming over and they're just folding into the family, and it's such a beautiful picture of how really we all should be as a society. Yeah. We shouldn't see age. We shouldn't see fill in the blank. Yeah. You know, all of it. We should just be. Yeah. We should be one in spite of our outward package. And that's what's beautiful about all of us is, and I'm sure if like someone looked over the fence, they'd be so confused. What's going on over there? Why are all these people together? And we have had that. And when we've been at restaurants, people's like kind of look at us like, what is
this group over here? Yeah.
Why are these people? And they're trying to piece it together, and you just want to go, don't try to figure it out.
People want to know good energy. They want to know, why is that group that happy? Or what are they doing over there? They want to soak that up themselves. So.
They just want to, everybody wants a place to belong and be heard.
So those that are listening, and I'm sure they want to know more about you, where can they go? Is there one landing page, a website? What are your socials?
quarterblue.org is a Quarter Blues website. Okay. The two podcasts that we are in the process of launching, one is Unpacking Crime. It is really unpacking various avenues of crime. We're not unleashing the gory details of crime. There's enough true crime on television, which I love, but that's not our purpose of our podcast. You might not understand how a police officer who couldn't put away the murder of a young girl's mom. Why is there mutual respect? And you're going to understand that. Or you might understand my story of I'm sitting with the pastor who was the first to know that I was sexually abused. And why did the church take that avenue to set up counseling for us that we didn't have to pay for, which is the model of a Quarter Blue, is we want to offer free therapy because donors want to invest in the healing of victims of crime, knowing they shouldn't be paying for the crime that was perpetrated against them. So that there is that podcast. And then we have a second one that really delves more into how have people thrived after experiencing such difficult realities. I've talked to the pastor actually who unleashed my crime. We actually, because he flew out from North Carolina, we talked about him recently losing his son and how he walked through that. And we have another guy coming on whose daughter passed away from brain cancer, and her valiant battle against that. And then what she said when she said, "I'm ready." And we have someone who grew up with a visual impairment. And we want to know, how did he thrive in spite of? And so the podcast is called Oaks. Is here are these mighty oaks who are standing and growing and who are rooted in their faith. And how did they do it?
Love
and
that.
Really, what I say is, you need to listen to this podcast now, so you have the tools when you unknowingly aren't going to need it. Because I was given the opportunity to work through my sexual abuse. I gained incredible tools of thriving in the midst of the darkest of situations. And because I had those roots, when Ryder passed away, I knew what to do. Then when Gary passed away, I already knew what to do. And it's different if you haven't ever prepared yourself for the worst day in your life, it's going to be really hard to get out of bed.
Preparation, education.
Yes.
Well, oh man, I thank you so much for, in my eyes, being vulnerable and telling your story. And I really appreciate that very much. And for those listening, this lady has so much more. And so much more you're going to do. I'm excited with your future. It's not nearly over for you. And thank you for your time today. And we'll talk more.
I look forward to it.